Great. Thanks, everybody. We do a forum. So I move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mission of ECS is to educate each student to high academic standards using innovative curricula that foster knowledge, love, and respect for the environment, and to preserve for future generations. We grow citizens. Our vision is that every ECS graduate will be an actively engaged citizen driving thoughtful change in the world around them. We are going to start today's meeting, as we have been doing recently, with an executive session to last for approximately 1 hour. And after which the public portion of our meeting will resume. So with that, I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session. Motion. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will go into executive session. Thank you.
All good.
Back.
Yep, we're back.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for your patience. So we're going to go back on the record. We are at item 4.
Yep, thank you. I just want to say a couple things before I turn it over to our superintendent. As I think we talked about briefly the other day, we started school on Tuesday, so yesterday, and I just want to give a huge thanks to, first and foremost, all of our employees out in the different buildings and different schools. It was really wonderful to see our teachers, our educators, all our administrators as well, back in buildings together, and to really see the energy this year, like every year, just about really do this year, a lot of positive energy in each of the buildings. And obviously, it's exciting to see everybody come back. We feel good about that, but what's really exciting is then when we see the students come back, and that really was just absolutely wonderful yesterday in each of the buildings to see the energy, see students and teachers reconnecting or connecting for the first time, to see students making new friends, and seeing old friends last year. Just a wonderful start to the school year. So that was exciting. It was also exciting to note that, and this I think is an exciting change for us. We've talked about this before, but as we're getting ready for students to come in, we had a really strong professional development. The energy and the vibe, so to speak, from that time period was really good. And part of that, not all of it, but part of that is related to our new employees and the induction program that we got off the ground thanks to Dr. Kripp's team. And I just want to give a shout out to Heather Hope, who was the person taking the lead on getting that started. So that obviously everybody played a role, but again, another great team. So it's very exciting to have our students back in the building. We're really excited for the start of the school year. Just a big thanks to everybody for all the heavy lifting to make that happen. So that's exciting. I just want to give a quick couple of updates for everyone as it relates to the building along the river, the new ECS facility along the river. Following the board's authorization at the last meeting, so thank you all. We did sign the lease with developers, so we started that process, and that does make this a very real project. We're in the process now of finalizing, the design has been completed. We're in the process of finalizing the cost of that. It's out for bid for, I think, the third time. We have hopes that that will come in sort of as anticipated, or wouldn't it be nice if it came in lower? So we're hopeful and optimistic about that. So we're waiting for that piece. We have gotten approval. One of the key elements for going forward was approval from the zoning board of adjustment. We need to get a variance for that site. That actually just arrived on Friday afternoon. It was confirmed on Monday. So that's moving forward. And we did receive a demolition permit. So the property owner has put in 2 permit requests to the city. One is a building permit and one is a demo permit. There's a small amount of demolition that needs to be done so that we can build under, sort of in the parking area, if you will, build up that parking area. And that permit was issued Monday. So that's ready to roll, and we are told the building permit will be coming soon, like in the next week. The city's been amazing, and so we're very excited about that. And the construction company is already mobilizing, so they will have stuff on site effective Monday, the 24th, and it's anticipated. We've been talking all this time about starting on the 28th of August, which is an auspicious day. It turns out that might actually be true. I'd actually told the board I thought maybe we push it back and be September 1st-ish, but it does appear that we're on target for a start date of August 1st. And just a reminder, our goal is to, Elmer's, the property owner's goal and commitment and lease is to turn the keys over to us on June 15th, 2027. So far, knock on wood, keep your fingers crossed. We're not done yet, but the target, we're on target, we're on track. So just a quick update on that. And then now to just introduce Dr. Cribbs's presentation. She's got 2 presentations for you, but just to talk quickly about the first presentation. She's going to be talking with you about the assessment scores that we received from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And just want to set a little context. She'll probably do the same, but I just want to set a little context here. We've been doing this now for a long time. ECS, we provide the scores from last year, the first or so board meeting of the year, to give people a look at the preliminary data. And this is just an early look, right? it's not the whole story. This is what we've received. We don't have all the data from the state. We don't know how we compare exactly to other schools. And for us, what's also important, perhaps more important, is we don't have the individual student performance year over year. We don't have that piece yet. So what we're looking at, just to sort of set the stage, is the overall performance, a snapshot essentially of the school's performance in the year. And what you're going to see are some serious bright spots, which is really exciting. And I know Dr. Tripp will call attention to those. You guys know her as well. She's a rock solid educator, so she's going to be focused on, okay, here's some places where we didn't, the interventions that we were thinking about didn't hit our target or weren't exactly where we thought they would be, or it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower than we expected. And that's what we're supposed to do. And I just want to make sure that we think about this in context. We're excited about some of the stories that you'll see here. There are other places where we think that we can make better progress, and that's what she and her team spent the whole summer looking at and building plans for. And that's our, to talk a little bit about that. That's the work we do every year. Again, back to our teachers and our paraeducators and those folks who are front-facing the students every day. This is how we make progress. We think about what we've done, we think about where it worked really well, or where it worked better. We go back and we make improvements. This is what students do, this is what we do as educators, it's what we do. And so I'm very excited about the presentation she's going to make and the work that she's going to do. So with that, I'll turn it over to our superintendent.
Yeah, so I have lots of slides to show as I go. So it's like, I'm gonna stand here, but of course you're probably not gonna look at me, which is fantastic.
We're not turning our back on you, we're just looking at the school.
As Patrick shared, we don't yet have ECS, that's those growth scores, that year-over-year growth. And we also don't have science scores, and we do not have any sort of comparison. So in order to kind of give you something to hold on to as far as comparison, the state of Pennsylvania has 2033 goals for schools and their PSSA scores. Overall, they want to see a math target of 71.8% and an ELA target of 81.8%. I've been holding on to that 80% mark because of, in a typical NTSS model, it's about an 80-15-5. If you have a triangle, 80% of your students should be meeting targets in that tier 1 general education setting. Then you get some students who need a little bit extra or intervention, tier 15, 5 need additional instruction. So that's where that number is probably coming from, but it's also a very far away date. And so the state has also said there are little tiny increments that you can make in order to meet that 2033 goal. So this year in 2026, you would be on track to meet that goal if in math your proficiency was at 59.4% and your ELA was at 72.7. So we'll talk about that as we go through each one of the grades. We can use that as kind of a benchmark to see how we're doing in terms of what the state would think is a good proficiency level. So I have 3 slides for every grade level, which I normally do. So it's the cohort, it's the grade band over time, and then it's how they did in that snapshot. So this is 3rd grade, ELA and math. One of the lowest scores that we've seen in 3rd grade since we've been measuring it in ELA, unfortunately. So this is a challenge area for us. This is one of those moments of what happened, what do we need to do? I also want to kind of think about the testing environment at the time too, just to call attention to the fact that this was NFL draft week. We had days off of school, and in the ELA test, the second day of testing, the entire state came online and the whole system shut down in the middle of testing. So these were our 3rd graders who had never taken a test before and were in that environment taking their reading test. And it was all online. And so would that have caused this number to be lower than we anticipated? Potentially. We've done all of the other things that we normally do for our 3rd graders, interventions, we have a consistent program, our teachers are learning and growing. So for me and my team, it's trying to figure out what happened there to help us figure out now those students are in 4th grade, how do we ensure that that number does meet our target number this coming school year? So we do have some work. But if you look at our math scores, we're at 73% proficient or advanced, which is already higher than that 2033 goal for math. And also, if you look at the advanced portion, 45% of our students are advanced.
Can I ask, was this the
Yeah.
first year that they were, the third grade has had to do the test online, completely online, or this is the second year?
So we have done a test online, but our third graders, this is the first time they've ever taken a test. So yes, it's for them, it's like a really big test online.
Okay,
And so part of it is making sure they have the keyboarding skills that they need. What are we doing to make sure that in our primary building, they set the stage for those keyboarding skills that are necessary for the third grade test? So our third grade teachers aren't trying to do them.
Just a quick question on that.
Yeah.
If, we're talking about the testing environment, presumably that would have the same impact on that.
Math was the week after, and so what ended up happening is like there was a we like started the week, we had a little bit of a break, then we came back. We actually took a day off before we took, not a day off, but we settled ourselves in before we took the math test, so that might have done it, and the testing environment worked, right? There was no shutdown across the state. So I think that that also is a potential there, that's what we don't know. Yeah. So this is the grade over time, not the students, right? So this is every time we teach third grade, how do we do? And so again, we saw this last year where our math scores are actually outpacing our ELA scores in that grade. But there is over time this decline in our scores, and we're trying to figure out why. One of the things also to note is that third graders were 9, right? And so these students during COVID were 3. And so that is when you have early intervention services, this is when you have preschool. So our current 4th grade, right, you're not 4th graders, this should be that last edge of the COVID thinking about they've had some sort of impact. So we also want to watch this grade over time, particularly in the cohorts, to see if we can't support them when you know that some of those crucial early learning years, they were masks, they were maybe not in a preschool. You know, they have lots of different options that work in their environments. So these are the students, and so last year I think I never did a cohort model for you. So I went back. Now the interesting thing here is first and second grade are not PSSAs; those are the math scores. So I'm hoping to draw a historical line, but it's more about proficiency rather than the actual test. So you can't really compare test to test. But you can say, like, did these students need some sort of grade level proficiency over time? And so in that third grade cohort for math, we see they had a pretty big jump in second grade. And then when they transitioned to the intermediate school for third grade and the test, it did dip a little. But it's also, we were environment, we were learning for math, and then ELA also. Here's our 4th grade, but this is also like a huge highlight, right? So we have a beautiful kind of highlight for what we just had a challenge in our 4th grade. So in our 4th grade ELA, they had 85% proficient or advanced, but if you look at the advanced percentage of ELA, it's 54%. And then on math, they had an 80% and it's 59.6%. So again, there's that question, what happened there? If they're in that same testing environment, what is it? But they're also 4th graders who take this test online before. The 3rd graders have never done that. 4th grade over time, if you notice, this one is the math grades are historically kind of increasing. That ELA has been a wobble a little bit, but it's really it's a nice steady incline in our grade over time. And then in these cohort models, if you look at these students particularly from 1st grade in math, again, 2nd grade was a real high note for them, but they stayed in that 80%, which is where you want that efficiency for math. And then in ELA, they just steadily increased over time. In our 5th grade, so if you think back to what we said with that 2026 model, that 76% in ELA, it was 72.7 as the state, so we are above in ELA the current year, and in math, we're above the 2033 goal of 71.84%. And again, in math in 5th grade, that 49% advanced, that really big chunk of the pie is being advanced is really high. The other thing is that below basic score in 5th grade math and below basic in 5th grade ELA is really, really low, which you want. 5th grade over time, that check mark that we've been talking about forever, we have kind of rebounded still since COVID in 5th grade over time. And then again, math is outpacing ELA still. And then these are those students. Again, in math, we're hovering in that 84, 83%. And ELA, we had a little bit of dip in 5th grade, but that ELA test is a little bit harder in 5th grade. It's still roughly 90%. Our 6th graders were our COVID kindergartners. Now, this is again like middle school. As students were older during COVID, we also saw it's harder and harder to make up the gains that they potentially lost at that time. So what I wanted to also show you here, there's two things. One, we can look at the actual proficiency, but we as a school wanted to see whether or not our MAPS assessment was actually giving us an accurate reading of whether or not our students were going to be proficient or advanced on the PSSAs. So that's why you have two different numbers here. So if you think about on the ELA side, we were 56% proficient during PSSAs, and our math said we were going to be at 58. So it's pretty spot on assessment. But if you look at the math side, we were 38% proficient, and we thought we were going to be at 47% proficient in maths. So now my job and my team's job and Nick and the math team at middle is trying to figure out, okay, is this the actual correct assessment for us? Is it actually helping us figure out whether or not our students are on grade level? What actually is the kind of the miss there? Do we need to change our assessments? Do we need to change our curriculum? We're looking at piloting a different curriculum in middle school math. We're going to go back to Eureka so that there is that consistency K-8. We saw, if we remember what the slides before with math, K-5. Eureka has been a really strong anchor for us in our lower grades. So we're trying to feel that out of middle school. They changed Eureka a lot since we went away from it in middle. So we're trying to see if that also would be supportive of teachers. So here's our 6th grade overtime. Again, that's not the kids, it's that grade band. ELA is a lot higher than that. We have recovered from that 2022 real big dip in 6th grade, but still not where we want to be. And then this is the one that always gives us a little bit of pause, because remember, this is the hard part, because you've got that cohort over time model of different students 5th to 6th grade. As we start hanging on to more of our students from 5th to 6th grade, we are wondering if that number also will just go up, because they're in that 75% to begin with, right? So what does that look like? How can we learn a little bit more about what we share? So I spent a lot of time with our principals this summer, making sure we understand that at intermediate, we really have to be talking about what does that handover to middle look like? What are the skills that they have? What are the skills that they're missing as they enter into 6th grade? How can those teachers kind of pick up from where that 5th grade left off and go forward? And then also getting to know our students really early and have that really strong intervention time. Last year, we started intervention in middle school, and so this year is the 2nd year. They have the systems and structures in place. Now it's really digging into individual student needs and making sure that we're meeting things that they need. This is 7th grade. One of the things to notice about ELA in 7th grade is there are 0 below basic students. This is a grade band. We also had a brand new literacy curriculum last year for structured literacy in our middle school, and this population of students had a pilot year the year before. So they actually had 2 years of strong ELA curriculum, which allowed, I think, that below basic number to be so small. So they had that kind of really strong foundation. They're 63% in PSSAs, not quite at that 72.7% where we're supposed to be, but it's getting there, right? And then in math, we're at 48%, but look at what maths was. And so we went into the PSSAs thinking that we were at about 61% proficient, and PSSAs was 48. So that's, again, trying to figure out if that's actually the correct assessment for us. 7th grade overtime, the ELA has gone up a little bit, but it did have that kind of steady swinging there. Math is a little bit all over the place, but now we're starting to go up, which is really good. And then we have the cohort over time, those actual students. That if you look at the ELA performance from 6th to 7th grade, they did not go down, which is actually, it's okay, right? It's not great, we want it to go up, but it's not going down, which we'll go to in 8th grade in just a minute. And then in math in 7th grade, they're going up. Not very much, but we're getting. 8th grade ELA.
Can I just ask a question about the cohorts and,
Yeah.
I don't want to get too into the weeds on
Yeah.
analysis, but like, how does it control for when people leave the cohort?
We don't until we get PBOS data. Once we get PBOS data, we'll know exactly that I can pull just our students and watch our students over time. This is just A grade band students over time.
But I will just say that this is one of the things that Mandy and her team have been looking at. How can we, she just said this a minute ago, how can we make sure that the pass off, the handoff of the baton from math and ELA from 5th grade to 6th grade is a smooth one. And they've been working on that. And this year, I think we're at 75 5th graders transitioning to 6th grade. So that, you know, the percentage of students that are coming across should be higher. And if we have a curriculum that's consistent, there's a good pass off, and theoretically, we would see, it might be a more stable shift from 5th to 6th grade. That's the stuff you've been working on for the last couple of years.
How does 75 compare to the prior years?
In which one?
Oh, like, if it's about 75 students who, stay.
We're about 60.
Okay, so it's.
And for the students who are new to ECS, do we also get their historical data so that we can see about their?
Yes.
Yes.
So when you do, the PBOS data is student specific. So when they're entered into our system, we pull all of their data with us, yeah. They're not, so PBOS does 2 things. One, which is like look at student individual growth, and you look at teacher specific growth. They're not tied to those teachers. If they came to us new, they'd still be tied theoretically to their last year's teacher in a different school, but we look at the kids. Yeah. And then 8th grade, we have a pretty significant decline in our math in 8th grade at 29%, and then 41% in the SSAs. There's no maps data here because again, in 8th grade, it's a little bit different with maps because we have some students who take algebra, so they take the algebra maps, and then some students take 8th grade and have 8th grade maps. So it's very hard to parse out what the difference and how that would look. But it is a pretty, for us, it's a lower number. And then again, over time, that grade band, since 2024, we went up a little bit in math, and then we saw a dip last year. It's not as low as it's been. But this, unfortunately, with that particular group of students, now we have had some students leave us from 6th to 8th grade, but we are seeing a decline in our student population's performance over time in middle school, which is not what we want to see. So again, it's like, how are we holding on to students, making sure they stay with us when they enter 6th grade until 8th grade? What type of interventions are we using? And it's really hard to make up that time and that intervention to older students. So if you start in 6th grade, this really strong intervention, you should see lots of. So this one was an interesting one, and I had 2 different ones, one's ELA and one's math. So what I thought I would do is help you visualize where you can see the highest score and where you can see the lowest score over time in that grade. So if you look at ELA only, the green are where you've seen the highest scores, that snapshot time for that grade level, and the yellow is where you see the lowest. So we talked about 3rd grade, this year was one of the lower numbers that we've seen since 2019. 2024 was the highest at 84. And in grade 4, the highest was 86 in 2024, but we're at 85. So not much difference there. So it's still pretty good. And then grade 5, it was 85 in 2024. We haven't kind of rebounded in ELA since 2024. So we can dig in a little bit and figure out what's happening here. In grade 6, it's 2019. So we haven't recovered since COVID in grade 6 and also grade. But in grade 7, again, where we had that really strong curriculum, we had really strong interventions, last year was nice. And here's the same for math. So in grade 3 and 4, it was last year, but in grade 4, 80 and 83 is not very much different. But if you look at pre-COVID in math, 41% were pushing advance in 4th grade. We've already on the way up to 80. So we really think that we've unpracticed the code in 4th grade math for some reason. So we're digging into what are the practices and rituals and routines and curriculum that we're doing in 4th grade. How can we find those fifth grade, last year was the highest we've ever seen. And then now, in sixth, seventh grade, we haven't quite recovered yet. Algebra, so now to keystones. So keystones are tricky. So you have also with you this keystone efficiency and practitioner. Okay, so if you have pressure keystones for graduating, you don't pressure keystones, there's other options for you. If you can take a keystone exam multiple times and then your score can also be a combination of highest score for each module all the time. So it's really hard to work out one keystone snapshot with the student and in terms of like how we're doing overall. There's some interesting information here. Our we grade out for one students, we're at 38.6% proficient. And then if you think about 8th and 9th graders together, if you are teaching this for the first time ever, you're at 22.4%. So our high school students are not in upward, not performing as well as our 8th graders if they have the first time. So this is just showing you the bottom is probably the most important part. Is that 17.8% is the total that we were this time last year, proficient in upper one. 22.4% if you just take out the first time in the state group, but our retesters are only performing at 11.2% efficiency. So the question then becomes, if we're retesting alpha, what are the interventions we're getting? Do we want to retest 3 or 4 times? They want to know at what point do we want to stop testing algebra if they're not in actual algebra course. So that's what we're doing. This tells you the one thing we have got is how we're doing it as a state and keystones. They release that. The top one is ours, so 17.8% proficient. The bottom one is the state, 33.2. So we're not quite where we should be in order to do this. And then here's literature. So we're at overall 29.2%. Those first time test takers are 32.7%. We've got 17.6%. So it's the same question. What are we doing to intervene in the students and passing the first time? How often are we going to use test literature? What does that course look like? And then here we are, according to the state, we're 29.2, the state is 51. Questions about that? Yeah.
Okay, you better state the literature as well, or just that.
Yep, it's an edit course. So you have to take the literature course.
Did you ever get the science test results when you did 2020?
I got the test results that it was a pilot test, but I'm not allowed to share them.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it wasn't scored, it was like, I think I was individual students on individual tests. So if you and I took the same test, I found out how well our students did on version A compared to students who took version A and other schools across the state. It was an interesting.
So they didn't aggregate all up to say like overall pilot tests or something.
And it didn't tell us whether or not we reached proficiency, it just told us that our students did better than 80% of the students who took that same version.
And then, so that was the 2025 year, 2026.
No data yet. No, well, we do have keystone biology data for students who took the historic test, not for the students who took the new and so we'll get that. And everybody's interested in waiting for that. And they're actually about the actual starting off on the same. Hold on. It's done. Right, because I.
It's maybe more of a question for this. Something you saying, maybe think of just this, which is like, we're looking at one of these classes that are scored, especially year over year. talking about maybe what your students in class. I mean, and I just, it's a long time, statistics, but I don't know, we're looking at these percentages of increase and you're talking about if we need to fix something or drag something back because we've done well, which is, I think, fine, but I don't have no enough to know, like, what is the statistical significance? It's such a small sample.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, that's part of the problem, right? But what we look at is trends. And so what we're trying to do as a group is say, okay, this is an engineer or something, whether it's statistically significant or not, it's still like, okay, what can we do better to increase that efficiency level, or get better at our craft, because it's all about the students. So if you're not at 100% efficiency rate, to me that means that we need to make sure that we're doing what we can in order to make sure that the students that are in front of us are getting what they need and that tier level that they need. So that 80% is really like the target, which is why we should keep thinking about it. So if we're not moving in that direction, then we think about it. Rather than numbers.
This is why I was.
I think, like, I'll use the fifth grade math discussion. I mean, I think looking at the numbers last year, the first year I was here, manning the team said, like, how are we doing? How's this? What's happening here? And the changes in the curriculum for ELA, we think based on the work that they're looking at, and not just this data, other stuff that we have anecdotal stuff. So, it's not all about the testing group. We have an indication that that shift is positive, and so they're looking at the math and trying to assess would moving to this curriculum that we use in the intermediate school would that be helpful? I think that's really, this is what I was trying to say. That's what's valuable here. It's not, we want to keep in mind the trend lines and then pay attention to those and then figure out if we make the intervention, if we do a change, does that change have a positive impact? Is it a big positive impact or is it just minimal? And so on and so forth. It's just a way for us to constantly think about craft. And what's really important then is to think about, okay, that plus what we see with students individually and the work that's happening individually in the classroom. I mean, an awesome set of teachers and other support in the classroom. What's happening is positive. So it's not like we don't want to rest too much attention on the statistical data itself. It's just a way for us to understand how we want to work.
I understand that you're looking at trends, like, because my question is, are they trends? Are we seeing trends?
That's a great question.
And I don't know the answer to that. I see there are some trends that are recognized. That will, like, one of the other things I mentioned. Cohorts is that if we're not taking individual students and measuring over time, adjust the whatever the context of them, the students leave, we don't necessarily know if the students who are remaining are improving or not, because you take out the students who are left, effectively measuring them, they were high achieving students or lower achieving students, that's the student numbers average makes. So, yeah, that was a fantastic.
It's like a great level there. So this is just like what we do as a team over the summer, where we think that we need to put our efforts. So this is just like that, indicator of, okay, maybe we do need to put some more on handling. What does that look like? And then after we do that, we look at who data, student data. Teachers then learn about this data beginning of the year, and then dive into these data conversations that are measuring students' growth in this intervention. So that's it. Part of this, the real work with teachers, getting to the students, getting to the students' data. They don't, they see this, right? Beginning of the year, yes, it's a thing that we want to make sure we understand, but it's how we think about our goals instead of how we think about whether or not a student is, because then it's all student together.
One question is my understanding that the data that you get now is preliminary, and it's not, there's no individual. I just want to make that.
I have individual student data, yes.
Oh, I was saying, the data that's reflected there is not reflected. It does.
So I get all the students to see how they do, and then I like run it, what we don't have is a few box of data. So we only have this one snapshot for student time. What's more important is the few box, which is like, I'm gonna look at age growth and see if she's actually reading growth. And that's what they.
That comes in the fall.
Yeah, okay. I have a recommendation on one of the charts.
Love it.
I'll talk to you.
Thank you.
It's very easy.
I have a question, I mean, not that this would ever be something that, we would need to, like, be presented on. But how does the school, I imagine the school can understand, like you said, students are tied to certain teachers.
Yeah.
And so you might find that, the technique that certain teachers are using might indicate that their schools are learning, right? So how does the school kind of, cross-pollinate some of those, like, techniques, like, curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So that PBOS is the value added system. Right? So what happens there is we look at the value add of an individual teacher on the student, whether or not they made a or growth. And so once you get that, you can look at are there teachers who are making like huge growth for students, and then our associate directors take a look at that. It's really hard data to look at in front of like all these people. Right, so instead of like a large group discussion, this is more about the associate director and teacher talking together, thinking about what they're doing and how does that associate director learn from that teacher and pull other people in. So if they're having other students, other teachers on the seat, so we can do some mentoring for the PLCs, which is that professional learning community. So how do we take what's really well, working really well, and spread it? It's like that associate director's job too. And our teachers are really good about sharing how we can invite people in, and they're doing amazing work. And so the ability for us to share is really important. And it's about learning too, right? And so rather than saying you didn't, this is indicative of you didn't help students grow, it's more about, okay, well, what students were in the classroom? What did that make of the students? Did those students actually grow and it just didn't show up in your else? So there's a lot of discussion from the macro level to individual students.
Oh, and I believe there's a lot of statistical significance problems with that too, right? It's like really hot in my classroom that day.
Yes.
You know, something like really put everybody on.
Right, which is why this is like that snapshot in time and not like something to say, rah, or.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it's gonna impact other places within schools as well.
That's the other thing, I think that's potentially why it's been taking a lot of time, is because you have that, this part of the bigger equation, right? It's like how they've got to be able to deal with the scatter plots that I brought, which is what's all the schools around us on the scatter plots.
Let's see if for all Pittsburgh schools.
Yeah. Pittsburgh and draft. Yeah, so another indicator of how our students are doing is in trips. And so what we obviously here at ECS believe is that part of the reason that we are doing so well in classrooms is that we make engaging opportunities for students and we get them out the door. And one of the things that's really great is that we have 3 pretty significant overnight trips from last year that you were not given a kind of synopsis of, so I thought I would do that tonight to also highlight that's a test score, yes, but this is also a huge indicator of what we think is success for students in classrooms. So we have 3. We do have one of our members here when we get to high school. Donovan is going to talk to you for just a minute, but I want to just first do 8th grade. 8th grade last year went to New River Gorge. This is just a small picture of what they did. They were doing hiking, whitewater rafting, they are orienteering, geocaching, all sorts of wonderful things. And I have a small video, we won't watch all of it. Show you the first parts of drums. So before I show you the whitewater rafting, I'm going to show you the Thoroughly enjoy that trip to the river board. We have a high percentage of our eighth graders that get to go every year. They always come back. This is second. They always come back with wonderful experiences, and they enjoy also hanging out with their teachers when they're at these trips and seeing their teachers on the way all around too. So it's a pretty amazing bonding opportunity for them, and also for that relationship building for our staff. We also had our senior trip. They went to Baltimore. I don't have the video, but instead I have Mr. Donovan Brown. So the senior trip.
Get you front and center.
So the New River Gorge trip is like a plug and play, right? We've done it so many times that we know what to do. But the senior trip's a little bit different because our seniors do get the opportunity to choose where they go. They're given a couple different options. We do use a company to go with us, but a lot of the load is on Mr. Brown here. So we wanted to say hi and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. As our Chris said, my name is Donovan Brown. I'm a 12th grade history teacher. I guess I'm a 12th grade history teacher. That's only one of me. And I've been working for 2 years now, getting our seniors a senior trip. We work on fundraising throughout the year, and we work kind of planning out what we want it to be throughout the year. I work with the Scholastica to come up with the idea of if you want to do a panic garden, we do a panic garden. We've done zoos at most of these trips. We've done always African American History Museum because they all take, many of them take an AP African American History course or have taken African American History course as well in our space. So it's a mixture of fun, engaging, and it's also a mixture of educational and museum touring and all those kind of things. And I'm mostly here to not just yap about, to get started, but I want to answer questions. So if you guys have any questions that you might have, I'm here to answer them. What it looks like.
I'm curious about kids who do not choose to participate. What are like the different reasons that you see that kids don't?
Throughout the year, I think I do a pretty good job at walking them through the steps of, well, what does it look like if you don't go, and what will you be doing here? What does the experience look like as we are working as a group to kind of like get ready for this? And so we only had 4 kids or so not go, at least sign up originally. And they, from the get-go, all of them just said they didn't want to. Through all means, I could not convince them. I wanted to, and I tried. And a couple people had, at the last second, various reasons that just can't. I just can't go for family reasons, for other things. But normally, a lot of the load that Dr. Chris has talked about is the communication factor. How much about parents, how much about kids, how much about managing their accounts inside of Scholastica, and all of that. That's all through me. So,
I should have started with thank you. What a great opportunity for the students. And so, and thank you for making it so inclusive. It's very.
I will say just on the communication, since Mr. Brown brought that up, he not only communicates with parents and students and the administrators in the building, he really does a great job of texting us, because we're also, as you might imagine, we're worried on a bunch of different levels. Having a bunch of high school kids in a big city can be a stressful thing for an administrator, and so we get these wonderful texts, including images of the students doing awesome things last year in DC, this year in Baltimore, and he does a really good job also of communicating and keeping us comfortable. Yeah, exactly. He's great.
So we've all been high schoolers before. We're all parents of nieces and nephews or something like that. Can you put us, aside from the great pictures you see here, can you put us a little bit more ease about it, frankly, a bunch of 12 years. I want to just know, just as we do trips, the first thing that some people think of, oh my God, liability.
yeah.
I would love to know from, you know, your perspective.
Okay.
What do we actually, what is it like?
Yeah, I can absolutely walk you through that. From the get-go, I'm walking them through some of the steps that we kind of already established. We get everyone to have a Remind app, so I can message all contributors, can message all of the kids at the same time. All the kids can message all of us individually. We can make smaller groups for how we might divide the kids up. So last year we was 3 trip leaders, or me and 2 other leaders who we all had small groups who were being accounted for. So what that looked like is about 8 to 10 kids, about 8 is what our setup was this year. And I'm checking with them wherever we're at, just making sure like, okay, we have these kids that are 17, 18, 19 years old. And I've been with them for a year. So if I'm ever really kind of worried about those things, I'm always gonna talk about it beforehand. But what it really looks like is, if it's more than an hour or 2, I'm asking them to just take selfies. What are you doing? Where are you at? How close? Because we're talking about a zoo or something like that. And inside a zoo, 17, 18, 19 year olds, people to be able to walk around, whatever they may want to. And at nighttime, we have, Scholastica offers, a nighttime duty. So there's like security guard in our hallway. And they're like really particular about what kinds of, kind of hotels we can be in, or what the windows look like, get out of those things. And, from 10 o'clock to about 5 in the morning, we can see very peacefully saying that nobody is leaving their rooms. And I don't really tell the kids that that's how it works either. They're welcome to like look at the itinerary because it says it very plainly. But take towards Mr. Brown or something like that. I was like, I don't really do any of that. And then so 2 years in a row, it's been easy sailing.
We also see that strong, really close relationships with our
Yes,
students, and that trust that you built in the school year also is something not
One question I have, just obviously you articulate some of the things you're doing when it comes to history focus, comes from some history elements or some things. So you obviously, I guess, from a broader perspective, how do you see the tools that we've done as and tools like that in terms of lots of trips and how do we incorporate our vision as an environment, particular our values, sort of into that and maybe sort of like some overlap. I'm just curious sort of about this, how maybe that's.
I think it's part of the process of curating kids where we want to go, what we want to do. Botanic gardens is something that Scholastica always says, like, but on this, it's something we almost always added. And as a plant here, I don't really see my passion. This is and what added. What that looks like, I think, is it's going to explore the different space, the different kinds of experiences, and I guess nature that it offers. So, like, when we went to Botanic after our trip at Baltimore, it was one of the really nations what I remember. And it was a very cool experience. But for the rest of it, I think navigating and taking responsibility to leaders is really, really big for people citizens. And that's what I work towards all year long. I'm teaching history, but also making sure that this group of kids are ready to go away from people who are bigger than me, higher up than me, with more responsibility than I have. Just come with me and my peers to be and have something that's fun. I normally say, like, if this is not good, and it's ruined something bad happens, that's all future people perceive and where it goes. So, citizens, I think it's a really good testament to whether or not we have good citizens.
last year, we did have some students go to the camp. And so, they created a Google site, so there's some videos here that we can show you about what their experience was like. It was very enriching. There was a science component, they were studying sea turtles, there was a lot of individual work project lines, so there was lots of different things that you're gonna see in this video. They were like, there's 3 separate videos. So then there's also the learning piece, right? So there's the they were doing a census of turtles and their time slot was midnight. Yeah. Also some work activities together before they did we did some Olympics, it was really about actually So they also put together, when they put together this website, they also wrote in all of these little notes about how they grew. And so I think it's like a combination of learning and growing about the science and nature, but it's also about that cohort and relationships we built. And so I think some of these are saying, like, one way I changed was by talking to people I don't normally talk to. You know, I just talk to my friends, but it's now I learn, right? I've learned about challenges about travel, to get through them calmly, be prepared. I've learned to be a better part of my community. And then it's a group project, so it's a combination of the exciting opportunity to travel. It's a combination of learning about sea turtles and scientific experiments that they were doing, and then it's also really learning about themselves. Those were the 3 overhead.
What grade was that again? Or it was 8?
It took them 2 years to prepare for the trip. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And speaking as someone who's married to a Costa Rican and spent some time there, I also have grown in my ability to deal with problems. That is true. Thanks everybody for that. So moving, I guess, from onto item 6, the consent agenda. We will, this is of course the new, approving the meeting minutes, financials, et cetera. Items 6.1 to 6.3. I'll just read the resolution and then open up for any questions or discussion. Resolution 2026-08 -2231 be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that the consent agenda for August 19, 2026 be approved. there any questions or comments or thoughts from the board on the consent agenda items? Okay. Seem to be, I will, ask for a motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to item 7, which is quotes, invoices, and contracts with over $10,000. Item 1 is the Bent Creek contract. And I'm just looking here. Does this have its own?
No, these are all the contracts for,
Okay.
items over $10,000.
Okay, so that these, will be under one resolution?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. So I'll,
We're happy to talk about it.
yeah, let's just talk about them individually, or talk about them. So let me read the resolution as we did before. Sorry, just skipping down here. Confusing because I'm just trying to figure out which resolution covers what, because it's in, it's an item, it's underneath item 7.5 for some reason. But it's just so I understand, is this the resolution, which is at the bottom of page 3 under 7.5, does that cover all the items above it? 7.1 through 7.5?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read that. It's resolution 2026-08-2232. Be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school, the above listed quotes, invoices, contracts over $10,000 for August 26 be approved. And then, as was discussed, it's my understanding that would cover items 7.1 through 7.5. Do we have anything, Patrick, you want to say about these? Any questions, comments from the board on these items?
The AIU contracts, these are student service contracts that we have with IU that we have on an ongoing basis. They provide different forms of support to us. These are just renewals of those contracts, which we find very helpful, but they're standard. The Schoolman quote is just a renewal of our Schoolman quotes. This is the website that we use for our lottery. It's a renewal of the lottery website application with some upgrades. There's some improvements on communication and interaction with families who've made applications, so we're excited about that. And the Bent Creek policy contract is a proposed contract with an organization called Bent Creek, which is really a for-profit version of the Pennsylvania School Boards Association. And the idea is that they would help us with some policy work, and help us essentially build a comprehensive manual for policies. We think this is a good way to move forward on the policy front. So we're excited to explore that further. The board authorized that, and we will dig even deeper into that and be back in touch probably later in the fall with some new ideas about how we can move forward on policies. I think that covers all.
Thanks, Patrick. Any questions on any of that?
So with the policy contract, they're going to look at the ones that we've just done and all the many that have not been touched, or is?
I would say it differently, but it's a step that idea. So the idea is that they would help us, they have a comprehensive school policy manual. This is what PSBA does for many school boards.
Making sure they're not conflicting as we
Exactly.
change things and
But
all that kind of stuff.
we would work with them and sort of see their versions of the policies. We have existing policies with the boards recently. We would receive all of that, put them all together, talk with our lawyers, and make sure that those policies, and we're never going to have to do some adjustments and things of that sort. But the idea is that we would have at some point, we're going to need to decide or make a recommendation to the board. Are we proposing a one approval for all policies, or are we approving a batch at a time? But the idea is that this would cut a tremendous amount of work for us and get us to a place where we would have a coherent, comprehensive batch of policies that we could then continue to revise over time in a timely, reasonable manner. I think this is probably the best way for us to go forward. in creating policies that we can then work with over time.
Yeah, we had spoken some about this, and it's like $5,000 for the first 3 years, and then we would continue getting updates from them and guidance from them.
Exactly.
I think that it seems like, to me, a good use of dollars, considering the amount of administrative time it takes to craft all of these policies. And like, from reading the contract, they also like will provide some level of review to the changes that we suggest. So it's not the case that like we just put these policies in place if we don't feel like they mesh with ECS. We will not undo the hard work that the team did over the last year. But this would be a lot of like boilerplate and beyond language, and then a lot of updates as state and federal laws change. We also talked a little bit about, like, it's $3,000 a year about going forward, and like, do we have to pay that forever? If we end it, if we don't feel like the updates that they're giving us on a quarterly basis are useful, and we can end it, it will take us a little bit of work to reformat things, because we can't use their format anymore. But like, they do have, this is like a whole line of their business, is to just provide quarterly updates. And so like, they have a fair amount of incentive to make sure that they're providing us useful information that we're going to continue to pay for.
Ideally, I guess it would save us money on legal fees, and sort of doing it some ways that we can do it, policy by policy, purely policy by policy basis.
Yep.
Any other questions on any of these, 7.1 to 7.5?
Maybe just a note on schoolment, just wanted to, we discussed it a little bit, during one of the community meetings, but wanted to hear a little about, how you feel like this software is, it's a 3-year, option to extend. Are there other softwares that you consider that would do the same work? And also, like, even if you haven't, do you feel like it's meeting your needs in some way?
Yes, our enrollment table will have to do with the school software, and it has all of our social information. There's a lot of data that we can pull from that software.
And there are some upgrades that we think will be not only good for us, but they'll be good for parents as well.
Right, you're saying like, helping with like emails to families to get more information. I mean, does it, I know there's lots of different systems that the school is using to interact with families, like online, or like just regular email, like schoolmen, like maybe, like, it can be, I guess from a parent's perspective, it seems pretty clear, but it also would imagine it would be onerous and have to be integration with teachers to work on those systems.
So one thing, this is a shout out to Vicki and her team, that they've been looking at all of our applications. And while I couldn't tell you how many we've reduced, there's been a significant improvement. And in addition to that, there's just the way that we onboard tools now is different, and I think really positive. So a big shout out and thanks on that front. And then as it relates to communications, you haven't seen this yet, but it's on the horizon. Well, first of all, I'll just make this quick pitch. So Kristen's been working since she arrived not that long ago, really. It seems like forever ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. And she's been updating the website, and so you'll see some significant improvements now and coming more. So it's a rolling process, but that's very exciting. And part of that will be streamlining some of our communications. And using that tool as a way for some of our communications, not through Schoolman for our enrollment processes, and not for emergencies and other things, or not at the classroom level or building level for different types of communications, but there'll be some more general communication, and it'll come through the website, and we think it'll be, because Kristen's doing good work, we think it's going to be a lot better looking and a lot more functional. And so what I'd say is we're doing a really good job of trying to consolidate and sort of define, this tool does that function, this tool does that function, and thanks to Vicki, they can all kind of work. We're not there yet, but they're working better together.
one of our main goals, and you see it on the roadmap, is the integrations across our
Yeah.
platforms and apps, but then, it's on the back end that we are able to really, so, there's a lot of work in the summer to make sure our rostering was automated, that
Yep.
back end, our systems were talking to each other, and have integrations. We still have quite a few apps because part of technology platforms is shifting over to change management, and so we cannot take away what's comfortable for Schoolment is working for our families and for our staff. We have historical documents in it for us to have that change over to another system. If there even is another system that works for us, would take time. And so that would be a 4-year process, even if we were to make that decision. So, we are still assessing where those integrations can happen and where we can streamline, but for now, we are trying to be thoughtful about the human processes and the change management.
Very exciting.
Appreciate it. Anything else on this? Not, I will, that's what I'm going to do. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The motion passes, resolution adopted. Moving on to item 7.6. This pertains to a request to participate in the federal E-rate program for the internet services for the funding year 2026. And we have a resolution 2026-08-22 for be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that it authorizes the administration to conduct the required E-rate competitive bidding process and submit applications for eligible federal services for funding year 2026. Including internet access and fiber fixed wide area network connectivity. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
I read through this, and why would anybody not do this?
We agree, we should do this. This is essentially thanks to Vicki and her partnership with AIU. This is a way for us to bring resources to ECS. And last year was the first year we did that.
Yes.
You want to say anything?
It's quite a bit of work and paperwork, and a unique contract with, Scott Kelly from the AIU, who has a lot of knowledge around these processes, so it's a lot of, bureaucracy and documents and, applications, but we are, part of it's also making sure that we have an infrastructure plan that we can communicate, and so we are being thoughtful about, making sure that they can support our move, but then also supporting the district as well. And so, we have to stick with the timeline right now and look at some infrastructure plan in the summer, so that by September and October, we know what we want in the next 5 years.
And like, what would the alternative to this be?
That we are paying.
We're
operating
paying.
costs.
It's like, okay, that was, I just wanted to make sure as I was looking at it, it's like, oh, then there's this completely other path that.
This is a really great program.
Thank you.
And
I'll
it's
stop
not-
asking.
No, it's good
I
advertising.
know I'm late, I'm sorry.
No, but it's really important. This is really important. And again, this is thanks to Vicki for doing this work. It's a lot of bureaucracy. And but if we do it right, which we did last year, and we hope to do again this year, it'll bring resources, as Vicki said, to support our move and to support connectivity, more importantly, across the whole district. And by the way, this is part of the uses and source of funds. This is part of what we're hoping to get these resources. So these two resolutions are the same.
Yeah.
It's just for two different categories of E-rate application.
So you just need board approval for the bureaucracy.
Well, the thing here too, just like today, we're going to come back with a recommendation, hopefully for approval of some sort of contract. But we want to, the idea here is to demonstrate to bidders that the board is committed to this, and that there's an appetite for this. They don't want to just, because a lot of people are competing.
Yeah, usually we see it happen.
You will.
Yeah, so that's why. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, we did get one last year, and we weren't part of this before, but I guess here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It's a lot of work.
I mean, if you think just about this alone, I shouldn't say this in a public meeting, but this was good advice from the IU. Their cost was less than what we've seen.
Well,
It's a great partnership.
any other questions on this? Otherwise, that's good.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next, resolution 7.7, resolution 2026, -08, -2285. It resolved by the board to assist the school that it authorizes the administration to conduct the required E-rate competitive bidding, submit applications, and take other actions necessary to obtain E-rate funding for eligible category 2 services such as FCC, USAC requirements, and federal school funding. Additional questions?
We appreciate it. Sincerely.
No, this is like. This is what should.
Yeah.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Resolution. Moving on. To, number 8, policy adoption. Having policies to adopt. Policy discussion. Moving on to 10 business. 10.1 is pertains to the ECS Federation Teachers Collective Bargaining Agreement. I will read the resolution. Discussion. Resolution is resolution 2026-08-2236. Be resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school collective bargaining agreement by and between Alliance of Charter School employees, ECS Federation Teachers, local 6046, FT, CIO, Charter School, August 1st, 2026, July 31st. August 1st, 2026 through July 31st, 2023. Questions or comments? Yes, please.
So I just want to say a couple quick things here. First, we began officially our conversation. We had some informal meeting discussions, and we discussed prior to March 26, 2026, but we began our formal discussions with the ECS on March 26th, and we basically completed the agreements in the first days of August with some cleanup and some detail work that had been done. It was just cleanup. And then the teachers union, the ECS, FSC Federation of Teachers ratified that contract actually twice. This is, I think, really important. They wanted to make sure that they did it correctly, had some questions, and so they did it again. My understanding is it was even better participation, which is good and positive. And so we're at a place where our teachers union has ratified the contract on their side. So this is the decision for the board. Before you make that decision, I would just like to say first a word of thanks to the teachers for their collective work in that process. It would be fair to say that this was not an easy process. We had a lot of things that we didn't agree on when we walked into the work. But it was a very professional discussion. There were times where we said, okay, we can't carry this conversation any further. We ended the discussion very amicably, but not necessarily happily. And then we came back to the table and we started again. And we would push a proposal, or they would push a proposal to us. And sometimes we would talk about it. And I think there were moments where we would hear from the teachers and they would say, well, no, look, this is really what we're saying on those quarterly, prep periods. This is what we're, time for preparation. This is really what we're thinking, or this other thing, or this is what we're think about PTO, or we would say, this is what we're thinking. And so there was a nice exchange. That's not always how it goes, quite frankly, so that was helpful. And so there were times when we heard what they had to say and we made concessions. There were times when they heard what we had said and they made concessions. And I think it's fair to say, I once heard someone actually in school district contract negotiations say, if everybody walks away from the table 70% happy, then that's actually a win. And I feel like another way of thinking about it is we both walked away from the table saying, we didn't get everything we wanted, but we were able to make our points and we got a number of things that we wanted. And I think that's how we both feel. I'll speak for our side anyway. And I think it's fair. I think that the discussions that we had, the result that we got to was a fair result for the teachers and for the school as a whole. And so I'm grateful for the chance to have had the discussions over time. Michelle and Frida were there the entire time. And I think it's fair to say we're having a 5-year contract because Michelle carried that flag the whole way through. And I think rightly so, honestly, it's good for us and it's good for the teachers. And I think we have an understanding and an ability to we can make changes as we go along, but we have a rock solid document to start off. And Frida was awesome with all sorts of understandings of procedures and data and all that stuff. And it was really just a positive discussion from our side and a positive discussion with the teachers. Not necessarily easy, but definitely it came out as a positive result. And so I'm grateful for the work that Michelle and Frida did, and for obviously the work that the team on behalf of the ECS FT did. And I have a funny feeling we'll hear about that from their angle. But I do think that it was a productive discussion, and it sets us on a good course for the next 5 years. No, you can do that.
What's up?
We have the report afterwards, but, does the teachers union want to refute anything that was said?
I think one thing that's good, it's good to know, it's like we as a board, and I know how much work it is to put together this document, so I know that I'm happy that you're here, that you teach, and we have educators on the board, we have lawyers on the board, we have a lot of people who look at this, and as the board member who's kind of been observing the negotiation side, I'm actually just very happy to see the level of candor and mutual respect that's taking place throughout the process. And and I know how much work goes into this, so I'm very happy that hopefully going to push it over the finish line.
To say a little bit, which is just that I was there when the high school joined the contract, and that was pretty much negotiating a new contract. I wasn't there when they negotiated the initial contract, but that process is a really long process, and it was just nice to say, yep, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, now here's the stuff we really want to change, and really improve for the better for teachers and the whole school. So that was some parts of it were expected, and some parts were still really hard, but it was possible to be part of both those negotiations.
And Catherine promised to reopen the salary, that's, hesitation to
It's in paragraph C. Yeah, appendix 2.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, and then I guess I'll ask for a motion, please.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. I do want to thank everyone. It's an interesting role for us on the board. I've been as a lawyer, not a lawyer, but I've been involved at least at some level, tangentially with all sorts of labor discussions on both sides, I guess you would say. But this is an interesting role to be on the board. We're not quite exactly in the middle, but we are in many ways, because our obligation is really to the school, the past and the future of the school. And we'll be really looking after the best interests of the school and its entire community, which includes the students, includes the teachers, includes everybody. And so I really, I do want to thank everybody for their dedication, because at the end of the day, it's dedication to getting it done is to me tantamount to dedication to the school, to its future, and I think that's something we can all be proud of. And it's a lot of work and it can be emotional and all of that, but glad it's done. And I want to thank everybody for their, we're telling people that they grow them into citizens. This is what citizens do. They negotiate and work out. That citizenship is recognized and appreciated. So thanks. And okay, so moving on to 10.2. This pertains to, well, it sort of pertains to two things, I would say. One is they're related. One is the establishment of an audit committee, which will be we have three, really, I guess, four standing committees of the board, which are enshrined in our bylaws, which are our governance, education, and finance committee, and then the executive committee, which sits at the top. But this audit committee will be another committee. It's not enshrined in the bylaws in the same way, but we want to establish it and sort of separate that function, which is currently sort of sits in the finance committee for a variety of reasons. And we talked a little bit about this at the previous board meeting, but to improve our audit function, to make sure that we're in full compliance with state law on audit related issues, and just for better to sort of looking into these issues and for better governance overall. So this resolution would has been out for public comment, I think, for 2 months now. By adopting this resolution, we were essentially adopting a charter, which will create that committee, and then we'll, at some future point, put people on it and start the operations. It also is coupled with a number of reasons which are in the resolution, some changes to the bylaws, and to just make it clear that those functions have been separated from Finance and Facilities Committee, and to also make a couple other improvements to the bylaws in terms of record keeping and things of that nature. So with that out of the way, I'm going to read the resolution, and let's see. I just want to. I'm going to amend this resolution a little bit, language, I think, just to make that clear, because it's not just an amendment to the bylaws, it's the adoption of the resolution that was put out. So I forget what we call that resolution, but so I'm just going to read this. It's resolution 2026-08-2237, be resolved by the Board of Trustees of the school that I'm going to say that the resolution pertaining to the audit committee and to related bylaw changes be approved. Any thoughts or questions on that?
As the head of the finance committee for within the audit, where the audit functions live, I support this. There's a lot of aspects of the audit that do not rely in finance, especially as it relates to auditing enrollment. It just makes sense for this to be a separate function. You'll be sorely missed from the finance, from the finance and facilities committee. We also have our hands full, but this just makes sense.
Stan, can you write in or email the exact language that you would like the resolution to be?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'll send an email. It's probably easier, so I won't get it wrong. just want to look back at the text, but yes, I can do that. No problem. Any other questions? No, a motion?
I'll move.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? Great, thanks, everybody. All right, number 11, reports. From the executive committee, I don't think we have anything, I don't have any particular report this time. So why don't we move to the governance committee?
Going to be establishing regular meetings the Friday before the monthly board meeting. So of course, you don't have to necessarily be on the committee to attend the meeting or something. You better all be attending. So, and if anybody else is interested in governance, then please let Stan and myself know. So we probably need to have one person on the committee. You need to recruit a few more people, and then there's some work on just making sure that all of our compliance stuff is good, that we're making Tanya's job easier when we can, and that we're supporting the policy work. Obviously, a lot of the policy work is in individual committees, but we're helping. Right now, it's just me and Tiffany.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. I do think, one of the, I think this is part of recruiting and other things we're here. Also, I think, figuring out, getting some recommendations on potential rebalancing our committee so that we have even work order to make sure we have requisite amount of participation to support each of these, work of each of these committees.
Yeah, that would, anything that governance should do. I mean, to bring in people to do the work, damn it.
That's, formally, we've done the governance committee. I can relate to that. All right, well, thank you, Sally. I appreciate you taking that on. Education committee.
Sure, yeah. We spent a little bit of time talking about the induction and welcoming the kickoff of the new year and all of those things that are happening. But we spent a significant amount of time diving into the data that we presented already to the board and just going through slide by slide talking about it. If you have any questions, a lot of what you heard tonight, we presentation. So yeah, that's it. Nothing other than to continue exploring these questions.
Thank you. Finance and facilities.
A lot of the contracts we discussed during the finance and facilities committees that in our previous discussion. We also got some great updates on the process of the new facility. Grace got some updates there, and lots of shout outs to really hard to.
ECS FT, it probably has nothing to do with the board.
Of course. Am I, well, we're really excited to ratify the contract. We did have a really great turnout, especially for the second round of voting. And we did incorporate a lot of changes that the staff is excited about. I know we'll have some small details to work out in the coming months as we realize, we need something new about that, maybe something about this, but overall, very excited step. We also have a lot of positive feedback about the first few days back to school. So looking forward to the rest of the year. Yeah, gonna be great. And then Katie has a lot more to say.
Yay. Thank you, Hannah. And I'm Katie Sukenik, and I teach 4th grade this year. The kids get an extra minute of recess every time I use the wrong name because we're 3 deep. But anyway, I wanted to report back from the AFT National Convention, which I went to in July in DC. This summer, the committee that I joined was the paraprofessionals. They call them PSERs, paraprofessionals and support staff. And there was a resolution passing to have a starting minimum wage, $22 per hour for all paraprofessionals nationwide, indexed to inflation, which I think is important. And the resolution was to echo what we all know, that our schools, like nationwide, would not function without amazing support staff. But what you might not know is that ECS paraprofessionals are truly a cut above the rest. I was trying to think of a better saying, but like they're amazing. They're all overqualified for their jobs, intelligent, intuitive. And at intermediate, we have 12 paraprofessionals between the special ed paras who are assigned to work with a specific student, but end up being a second teacher in the classroom. And of those 12, 8 have bachelor's degrees. And of those 8, 2 are certified teachers. So we get like more bang. We have in-building substitutes and people that can run reading intervention groups because they have like Wilson training, special teaching experience. Also, one paraprofessional has an early childhood education degree and 18 years of experience working at the University of Pittsburgh's Child Development Center. This is not like, we're not like plucking people off the street and that need a job, right? And of the other 5 people, I'm not to disparage their experience, but one person has military experience. We have decades of corporate America experience, which is great for like customer service skills. And one entomologist that did research at Cornell. Just to make a few. And while I was waiting here, I was trying to quickly calculate how many years of collective experience it is, and I think it's 49 years of ECS experience, just those 12 people at my building. So the national resolution is trying to acknowledge that paras are underappreciated and underpaid nationwide, and the AFT is going to try to work to get more state and federal funding for appropriately compensating our paraprofessionals. But it feels even more insulting to undercompensate such professionals that have so much experience and have so much to add to our community. And you would not understand unless you experienced it firsthand. So Lisa Henchek, the amazing special ed paraeducator who is the co-teacher of my class, our class, she came because we are inviting you to come to our classroom. You can spend the whole day. It was without.
Not all of you together. You don't have to pick days. It's going to be a lot.
But please come experience a day with us to truly appreciate from 8 a.m. to now at 8:47 p.m. Us collaborating, taking care of the students. It's truly it's indescribable how important they are to us. And as the teachers union, I wear 2 hats, I'm a CSFT executive committee, and also as the president of the whole local. So the paraprofessional chapter will be under our umbrella, which I'm the president. I feel like we cannot celebrate so much our contract, as much as we want to, because it just doesn't feel right without, bringing on our colleagues who are our equals. So please push through to get a beautiful first contract that is respectful, a respectful wage. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an ACL representative.
Yes.
Right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Shapinsky. I am the secretary of the PCO and the representative for this school year. I myself am a parent. I have a 5th grader, I have a 6th grader and a 3rd grader at ECS. Just some quick updates to get the school year started. The primary and intermediate school had a play date on August 1st. That was a rescheduled date because of the rain. It was a good crowd. It was very successful. We had a nice time. We have finalized a new job form to collect information for the directory, which has been sorely missed. Yearbook, group parents, which was introduced in last week's polls. And we've already had a lot of responses. So the directory committee will meet for the first time on August 26th to get that rolling. We also have a sign-up genius for room parents that has been sent out and hopefully will be getting filled. There was a used uniform sale at the primary school for the meet and greet. We are practically out of size 2 uniforms, so if anybody has some of those we'll no longer need. And there is now going to be a bin in the vestibule of the primary school of just uniforms that any parent can take and clean them. And finally, just on the agenda right now, upcoming is we're going to get started on the fall festival, get started on the mini bash planning, and then also working on a new event for grandparents in fall. Thank you.
Anything else? What's? Okay. Well, that, I guess, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment. Okay, all right. Thanks very much.